Centuries ago, in the part of the world that we now know is the Middle East, there was a pandemic of sorts. The atmosphere had become toxic. There was unrest and war and civil war. There was corruption and greed. And the more that people met and the more that they gathered, this toxicity, this disease spread. But there was a revolutionary amongst them who felt that somehow there was a cure out there to this toxicity. And as he searched for this cure, he self-isolated up in the mountains in a small cave so as not to contract the illness or play a part in its spread. The main symptoms included inhumanity at all levels and in varying degrees. The usurping of rights left and center and right, especially those of those who were considered outsiders, of women, of those who were different to the societal norm. And there was an underlying greed and selfishness. And it was spreading rapidly, and there seemed to be no cure and no end. But finally, what would end up being, as the annals of history would show, an end to this particular scourge, one man emerged as a prophet, as a bringer of the cure, quote unquote. And as he sat in isolation there in that cave in the mountain, he received his first revelation in the lunar month. So of course now we are in the new lunar year, and he received it in the lunar month, which we have now come to know as Ramadan. And thus Islam began, and it began in isolation. And so the spirit of Ramadan is, at its very core, a spirit of withdrawal, of isolation, but not in a way of removal, but just mindfulness, into quiet, into peace, into a time of reflection, and most importantly, deep listening. Ultimately, as we will discover, it is inside this time of isolation that one can really connect with the true spirit of Ramadan, which is solidarity and a focus on making society kind and supportive and loving of one another. And so with that in mind, I would like us to take a few moments and in a way, take a moment to sort of go into the cave of our heart and our soul and just spend a few moments in that isolation, in that quietness, with an openness to listening and connecting. So wherever you are, whether it's in your home office or your living room or your kitchen, or as I am in my friend's writing room, she's an author, I'm sitting at her desk, and I'm very conscious that this is where the magic of all her work happens. I'm very mindful of it. I'm mindful of the seat, her seat that's holding me. I can feel the imprint of her on this chair. So grateful to her and her friendship and her giving. Also aware of the beauty, the magnificent beauty of what's outside this window of mountain, earth, sand, sea, horizon, and people enjoying the last vestiges of summer. So let's take a deep breath as we, in a way, disconnect from any of the toxicity that is around us. And God knows it's pervasive and it's 24/7. But let's take a few moments in this sacred time together to breathe and pause and go into the depths of the cave of our very being. And there to breathe, to be mindful of this moment, to be grateful for this moment, and to embrace an attitude of quiet, solitary listening. And let's breathe together for a minute and a half and just allow the softness, the healing, feathered embrace of silence to wrap itself around us, to open our ears, our literal ears, but also the ears of our soul, and to listen to the cure, which of course, as we know, is the divine love that surrounds and holds us all. Dona nobis pacem. Let us breathe in a deep breath of peace and exhale love. And let's exhale love to ourselves. Sometimes the hardest thing to do. Breathe in peace and breathe out love. And a second big deep breath to breathe in peace and to breathe out love to all those that form our community. Breathe in love and breathe out peace to those who form our family and circle and support system. And finally, one last big deep breath to breathe in love and to breathe out peace into our world. May peace prevail. Thank you, everyone. And now as we come back, I would love to share this reading with you in the spirit of Ramadan. If you're interested, the words are in the chat, but if you just like to listen and allow the words to wash over you, this is my Ramadan gift to you. It's called After Years of Seeking Peace. After years of seeking peace, I stop right where I am and find the peace that is already here. Notice the way peace is what holds all the tension, in the same way that dark holds the sun. Right here, right here. An infinite peace, an unwavering peace, great enough to hold all agitation and tender enough to hold even the most shattered heart. So there is another incident that took place on the very same night that Muhammad was in the cave, in the mountain, wrestling with his great desire to see a cure to the ills that surrounded him. And as we know, the first word that the divine spirit said to him was recite, recite. And he then received the insight that would eventually be transcribed into what we now know today as the Quran. But after that moment, when he encountered the divine, he rushed down the mountain and still awestruck, and he narrated the entire incident to his beloved wife, Khadija. And as he expressed his worry and his anxiety because he was so blown away by what had happened to him and what he'd seen and what he'd heard, she reminded him of the sacrifices that he personally had made as a mystic, for want of a better word, and the sacrifices that he'd made to reach this point. And it's said that she said the following: Muhammad, you treat your community and your kin with love. You are truthful, and you assist others in discharging their responsibilities. And you have gathered in yourself lost virtues. You are so hospitable, and you are a helper to others in the way of truth. And in a society where those things at that time were very few and far between, Khadija reminded him of the sacrifices that he had made to live that kind of life and to uphold those values. And so it was in that night when the joining of the physical ramd, now that's the root of the word Ramadan, which I'll explain in a moment, but ramd is like a sense of being, an essence. So the joining of the physical ramd with the spiritual ramd was realized. And in that moment, for the first time, the true essence of Ramadan was born. And what this testimony of Khadija shows is that in order to reach the God of our own understanding, a connection with the divine, in order to truly connect and to establish the highest form of that connection, he was shown that it is in service to humanity is where it begins. Now, in Arabic, and unfortunately I don't speak the language because I happen to find it very beautiful, but I think I'd struggle with many of the guttural sounds. But it is a truly beautiful language, both written and also spoken. But the burning of the sun, so if you were to lie without any sun protection or put grapes out that would eventually become raisins or whatever, that burning of the sun in Arabic is ramada, ramada, the burning. And so the Ramadan is also the essence of two kinds of burning. So the first one is physical. And this is why there is an emphasis during that holy month of sacrifice of mostly, of course, abstinence from food and drink, which I don't know if anyone has ever followed Ramadan. I've done it several times, and especially in summer, it is very challenging not to drink from sunrise until sunset. But the the physical sacrifices and other enjoyments of life enable the soul to attain spiritual enhancement. And it's almost like you allow that month, you allow that moment, that ritual to be like the sun, burning away the impurities. And on the same token, the soul's burning passion for spiritual enhancement is what encourages the body to undertake such hardships. Think, of course, of Jesus in the desert, or Buddha, as he would become under the Bodhi tree. So if the physical burning is not met with the spiritual burning and vice versa, then Many Muslims would say that the month will pass by and you've not really experienced the true spirit of Ramadan. And Ramadan is not mere ritual, it's a way of life. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said, when the month of Ramadan enters, the gates of heaven are flung open and the gates of hell are shut. Now, we can argue what is heaven and what is hell, but I think however you analyze those words, what he's saying is it's a portal into the goodness that life has to offer. So Ramadan is not merely about fasting in its truest form, but what it's meant to be is a pathway to becoming and having a new way of life. I learned a couple of years ago from one of my Muslim students who told me that even something like if you've got gold or jewelry in your house that you have never worn, I think the period is 2 years. If you haven't worn it, opened it, touched it in 2 years, then in Ramadan you're encouraged to sell it and share the money or give it away. I mean, how extraordinary is that? So fasting endows one with the ability to endure hardship. And those who are used to bearing any sort of hardship do not lose hope, ideally, during difficult times. Instead, they're emboldened and strengthened to face them with bravery and success. And fasting is not just about the personal, but also the national and the international. It's meant to instill upon any community, any nation, the habit of sacrifice. And the knock-on effect is compassion, inner and outer strength to bear hardships and the challenges of life. Now, I'd like to just, if I can, a Muslim friend of mine sent me this and I'd love to share it with you. So bear with me one moment while I try. Can everybody see that? Thumbs up? Yeah. So he shared with me that these are the 10 Ramadan goals. So I'll start at 12 o'clock. Fajr, of course, is the daily prayer 5 times. I love, if you go around now to 24 hours, that Ramadan is also designed to give you a renewed sense of how to use your time. Now, I am guilty, as all of us, of sometimes frittering time away and perhaps not using it the most wisely. And in the same token, perhaps overusing it and trying to stuff too much into my 24 hours. So this Ramadan, I think that this number 24 has been a real powerful teacher to me about understanding my relationship to time. And it's been quite painful in a way to accept that that's something that I do have to look at. Giving up bad habits. Well, of course, we're also in the time of Lent. And isn't it interesting that it's the same desire in terms of really looking at what might have a hold on us and what might no longer serve us. Staying healthy, this is something else that has come to me in this time of Ramadan, is that I think the two for me are combined, my overuse of time and its impact on my health. It's been a big, powerful teacher to me this month. Now, I love that dua list is a list of prayers. And what I love about it, as my Muslim friend explained to me, it's not just prayers for myself, but prayers for others. What am I hoping will be a blessing to others? Isn't that a beautiful turnaround of the concept of prayer? Controlling temper, especially when I'm behind the wheel of a car here in Cape Town, where I find most of the drivers insane. I'm having to really, really focus on that too. Interesting too, the concept of forgiveness. it's interesting how each of the three major Abrahamic faiths during their holy seasons, and forgiveness is always woven into the ritual. Reading. Now, obviously, I don't think any of us necessarily read the Quran, but to read things which bring you wisdom and strength and spiritual nourishment. That's something else that I've really decided to focus on in this month. As I said, a huge emphasis in this month of giving food, giving clothes, giving blankets, giving whatever anybody might need, so that no one within the community goes without. That is a huge driving force in this time of Ramadan. And then the Tahweh is actually, they read the entire Quran from start to finish in these 30 days as part of their ritual. So I'll stop sharing and just close with a couple of thoughts. So as I said, the main drive, apart from it's almost like it's an upward and it's a horizontal. If you think of upward, of course, usually in the Abrahamic faiths, it is that sense of being connected to the divine is a sort of up-down thing. And again, we can argue that in terms of other forms of spirituality, but that sense of up and across, that there has to be balance, that one exists because of the other, that ultimately connection to the divine is in being of service to humanity. And I want to just close with this one quote from one of the commentaries on the Quran. Abstaining, discipline, tolerating hunger and thirst, a spiritual focus, a shift of focus from me to we, from you, from the you to the you and the God of your understanding. And with this objective and with pure intentions, the whole essence of Ramadan is not to bring about a temporary transformation, but a permanent one to ourselves and to our communities. So as I reflected on this, I thought to myself, what could be the lessons for non-Muslims in this time? And I think the same words came through to me as I contemplated. Could we, in this holy month, focus on any of those 10 that I shared with you, even just one? The ones that rose for me are self-discipline, increasing my compassion for those less fortunate than me, to watch over my speech. I love that Buddhist principle of right speech. What am I saying it? Why am I saying it? And how am I saying it? And this month, as hard as it is, and I have to really admit it's excruciatingly hard, but I'm trying. I'm fasting from news and TV and distractions and anything that would come in the way of the spiritual nourishment that I know that I require in this time of great challenge. Could there be a text that you would like to devote the remainder of this month to? A text that brings you nourishment and increases your understanding and holding and sense of direction, whatever that might be. And finally, the thing that rose to me is our relationship to time. So I will be happy to send that diagram to any of you that would like to. I'll send it via Sonia. But may the spirit of Ramadan be with us this month as we really embrace some of its universal truths, because I feel And perhaps you share my feeling that we, like Muhammad, are living in a time of increased toxicity. And could our love of community and could our connection to others and to the divine ultimately be the cure? I hope so. And thank you. And lastly, of course, Islam means surrender.
If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.